Welcome to the SoGrow Marketing Council podcast. The SoGrow Marketing Council is a membership organization comprised of growing marketers who want to stay ahead of developments in multiple areas of marketing. This podcast features recordings of SoGrow Marketing Council meetings. Tune in to hear expert marketers share tips and discuss the latest strategies and tools in marketing. To join the next meeting and be part of the discussion yourself, visit sogrowpr.com. That's SOWGROWPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab. Let's get growing. Welcome to the SoGrow Marketing Council meeting. We are so excited today to have a discussion with expert marketers from various different areas of marketing. So today we're going to hear from a few different presenters, and then we're going to have a discussion with the topics that they are going to bring up today. So the SoGrow Marketing Council is a membership organization built of expert level marketers. And the idea is that we get together and share tips and ideas, and we help each other stay up to speed on all of the different areas of marketing. There's so much going on in marketing, and so it's really wonderful to be able to have experts come and share the latest things that are happening in their particular discipline, and then we all benefit as marketers. And today we are going to hear from Kristen Sellier and Brian Jungles and Yana Torres-Briki, and I will finish us up with a tip as well. And to presenters today, as you say your tips, please make sure you say your name and your company. So that way we all know who you are, and you can talk about, what your area of expertise is, so that way we know what area your tip is coming from. And please be sure to subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel, and you can watch past meetings, and we also have individual clips as well if you just want short little bite-sized clips as well. And if you would like to present at a future meeting, you can visit sogrowpr.com/submit. That's SOWGROWPR.com/submit. And you can also join our future meetings. You don't have to necessarily always present at them, but if you do attend our meeting, you get to participate in the discussion as well. So you can also sign up at sogrowpr.com at the Marketing Council tab, and you can RSVP to a future meeting. So we are excited today to have Kristen Sellier kick us off. So Kristen, would you like to go ahead and kick us off and introduce yourself and share your tip today?
Of course. Hi, my name is Kristen Sellier. I'm president of Ideate. So I'm giving away our secret sauce, and I think this is helpful. We started as a design firm, so tons of graphic design, but a lot of marketers don't do this, and so I thought this might be helpful. So we put together a design workflow and how to be successful on a project. Number one, to make sure you can contain costs, have an efficient workflow, and also have some parameters and assumptions around the work that you do for your customers so they understand it. So we start with a project discovery. We ask a lot of questions, and we're really getting down to the point of why are you doing or wanting to do this project? Because clients come to us and say, hey, we want to do a trade show, or we want to have a new website, or we want to rebrand. And really, we are the experts, and so we want to ask, why are you doing this? What business objective are you trying to accomplish? And then maybe that tactic isn't the best or ideal way to do it. And so we're asking questions to determine if this is the right solution for them and going to give them the most impact for the amount of money they're going to spend. Second is we move into concept. And so we count for 10 business days for concepts. So if that's for like a new logo or something like that, we do our competitive research, we do exploration, ideation, all in that phase. We start paper and pencil versus computer. And then after those 10 days, we do our concept presentation. And we include then 3 rounds of revisions in the process. So, and the revision rounds work like this. We present the concept, and then the client has 2 to 3 business days to get back to us with their feedback. And then we make those changes, and we get 2 business days to make those changes. That's 1 revision round, and we include 3 because this is where projects can become inefficient and marketers can lose money, is if you do 11 rounds of revisions, right? And you didn't account for that. So we include that assumption in our project so that if we get to 5, then we can have that conversation with our client, and they know where they're at, and they know that it's going to cost them more money, and then we're getting paid for that additional work, and they're in tune to that. So we do round 1, round revision 2, round revision 3, and when that client has finally approved it, then we moved into the final production. And we have a process in place to minimize errors, and that's spelling, grammar, design inconsistencies. And we call it substantive editing, and it's a whole checklist. And I have found that every project that goes out the door with a misspelled word or an error, it's because we didn't follow our process. So process is really important. Even with the introduction of AI into our workflow, there's still process involved. And reviewing and having multiple sets of eyes and one person who hasn't been on the project to review it is really important to make sure that project is correct when it goes out the door. Then we submit our web ready or print ready files and it's out the door. So hopefully that workflow is helpful for all the marketers here, and maybe you learned something today, and I will open it up for conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. Go for it, Isham, and then we'll go to Crystal.
So, your discovery process, how how in depth is it? It sounds like you go it's 10 days from kickoff to the time you do your first concept presentation. Like how who are you meeting with? How deep do you go on your discovery?
It depends on the project. So we send a pre-work questionnaire to our clients ahead of the discovery meeting. We ask for them, it's about 15 questions. We ask for the leaders and decision makers or steering committee to complete that. They get it to us 5 days ahead of time before the discovery meeting. So when we go into that discovery meeting, we already know the competitive landscape. We know what they're trying to accomplish. We know their audience segments. We know what they think is their weaknesses, their strengths, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're having a very deep conversation in that initial discovery meeting. And then we're able to go and then ask those additional questions, get their answers, and then move into concepts. Now,
Okay.
that's not a positioning and messaging. If we're doing something like that, we're doing multiple interviews, one-on-one interviews post that, and if there's additional research. But yeah, that's typically how we do it. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, totally. We do very similar. We go more in depth because usually we touch the web also and positioning, so everything gets integrated. So yeah, I was just wondering because we also started in design.
Yeah,
Uh, it's
yeah,
a very familiar workflow.
yeah, yeah. I remember one time we had 25 rounds of revisions, and I was like, we need to put something in our contract so we don't get into this situation again.
Mhm.
Or that you get paid more in those situations.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fine if we're getting paid. It's when we're not getting paid and we're just bleeding. That's not good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I imagine with creative, it's so subjective sometimes. So it's like goes back and forth and back and forth, and someone has the CEO or the CEO or whatever has an opinion.
Right. Awesome. And
Yeah.
Crystal, you had a thought as well?
Yes, I had a thought on two. Well, one is a question, and then the other is a thought. First, a question about the revisions, and Kristen, you said you put in your contract on there. As someone who's been on both sides, I've been on the client side and had my leadership really pushing for multiple revisions, um, and been in the middle and really trying to push, knowing that my vendor really had that limitation. And now, as a new business owner myself, being in that position where I need to limit that. What do you do? I did hear you guys just say you could put on there a cost in that contract if you go over. Is that kind of how you prevent that scope creep from coming up? Yeah, you put that limitation on there, and then you say if you go over, there's a cost for going over. How do you kind of control that?
There's two directions. One, if the revision is needed because we made a mistake or didn't do the change they requested, that's on us.
Right.
So, but if it's an additional change that wasn't included, we do a per round of revision change. And it depends on the project. If it's a logo, it's probably $150 per round. But if it's a website or, like uh Isham, am I saying your name right? Like you were
Isham.
explaining. Yeah, when
Yeah.
you're on a much more complicated deliverable like a website, that could be significantly more because you're touching a lot more things. But yeah, and we have that in our contracts. It's $150 an hour for additional scope. And then we also let them know that we're not going to do any additional work unless it's approved in writing. So our clients don't get an unexpected bill that says you did 10 rounds of revisions. It's very clear and upfront. And the other thing I learned from Jason Swank, who has an agency mastery class, is if you do work for free, invoice them with a zero and say, hey, we're doing this work for you for free. So they know how much it would have cost, but you gave it to them.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. And
All right, Yana Tori, would you please introduce yourself, share your tip, and then Brian will jump to your tip.
Okay, so I'm Anna Tori. I'm a deliverability specialist and the founder of Review My Emails. And I'd like to start the year off with all the cool stuff that Google's been releasing inside the inbox. So the one thing they've released recently is that now, of course, Gemini is in the inbox, but now you can search and look for emails in different ways. So instead of trying to remember a word that might have been in the email, you can talk to it like if it was a human. And I think the example they had used in their video was like, hey, who's the plumber I talked to? And I got some quotes from last year. And then, of course, Gemini is able to like read all your data and everything you received to give you a couple of options that might make more sense if you don't remember the company name. And the cool part is that they've added this AI summary that's reading all your emails, of course, and is able to give you like, hey, here are some emails you got to reply back to. You've got a vet appointment next week, or like some school thing that you have to sign up to, all in one place. But now, what does that mean for us as marketers if we're having the inbox of every single person show your emails or other brands' emails based on how that person is already engaging in their inbox, right? So I've left Canada and the US years ago, but I'm still getting all the Walmarts and the Targets. I'm getting all those emails, and sometimes I might kind of confuse my inbox and open the emails because I miss Target and I definitely miss Walmart. But my inbox has definitely realized that those brands are not important to me, or I can't use them or buy anything from them. Hopefully, they could tell from the IP I'm using or for where I am at, but they're seeing it based on the engagement. So, as a marketer, we need to start thinking about the way we're formulating the content in our emails so that Gemini, or whatever you want to call the AI inside the Gmail inbox, is going to be able to retrieve the information in order to give it to somebody who might not be looking at it chronologically anymore, but is going to be talking to its own inbox. And we need to start thinking in advance, how can this feature develop? Because it's right at the beginning. You can start doing all your like to-dos. That seems to be working very well, even though it's like slowly rolling out for everybody. But at some point, it's going to start having options like new topics or topics that might be interesting to you. So it's kind of like an advertisement, social media version of what's going on in your inbox, and it's going to be unique to all of us. So as a brand, I would love to be able to care about all of you guys individually if I'm sending you emails. But I can't possibly know and understand what you're doing in your inbox and what other brands you might have, subscribed to. Maybe some big companies might have some extra data, but us normal people that have, a million contacts and less, we're not going to have any of this information. So we need to start thinking about our copy as something that provides value, which is something that should have been the case anyways. When we're writing emails, we're not supposed to just send out an email because we wanted to send an email and want people to remember we exist as a brand. We're supposed to offer value. And now we're going to start having to offer value not only to the person individually, but we're going to have to start offering value in a way that the inbox understands that this can be then shown to a consumer or a subscriber based on what they're looking for or what their needs are or what they've been doing in the past. So if you've been buying shoes from a specific store and Gemini has kind of realized you're doing it every couple of months, it might then start suggesting that email when the 3 months mark comes up. So as a brand, how do I know this? Do I just keep sending emails to the person? Is this going to screw up my opens and my clicks? So it's going to be very important to start thinking about the way we're doing copy and communicating with these people, who we're communicating with, because unfortunately, on the deliverability side, even without AI, if you're just sending emails to send emails, the inbox is like slowly putting the emails in the spam folder or just blocking them if they don't think the person is interested. But now, because we've got this second layer, we need to start thinking about how Gemini and all these inboxes are going to start allowing people to use their inboxes. And if Google is doing it, so is Microsoft and Yahoo and the iClouds, and they're always a little bit behind. And then they try to push out features that are not that great. So it's going to be quite a mess. So it's going to be important for all of us to start checking metrics that are beyond open and clicks. We've been talking about that for years now, but we're definitely going to start having to be able, what an English sentence. We're definitely going to have to start thinking about what we're calculating as metrics. It might not be the open the clicks, it might be how many people we get on the website and then what they're doing after that. So I definitely suggest you guys go look at the videos and try and see where you think Google is going, what direction they're going to be going, because that's going to help you decide how to continue to send emails and how to segment and how to target people. Just because now we have to sell to both people, the subscriber and make sure the AI is happy with us.
Wow, that is really helpful information. And I'm thinking in terms of messaging, if you have a muddled message, what's going to pop up in that AI summary that is going to convince, your message has to be so clear and so valuable so that if it's repeated in an AI summary, it's clear and is compelling, right? I mean, that's a bigger challenge than just getting someone to open an inbox or open an email. So, wow, man, there's so much there. So I'm gonna open this up for questions because there is so much there. Kristen.
We're having clients who are doing automated email also ask for SMS. Do you have
Yes.
recommendations for software that is email and SMS or separate entities?
Bravo is like the new runner-up the last couple of years. They've got a lot of money invested in them, and their software is very clean. And they've got also a very old school way of pricing people. So instead of it being like on a per contact, it's based on the per emails you guys want to send, which allows you to like keep your contacts, save them, and all that. But they've got the SMS in there as well, and it's pretty cheap from what you can get based on like what was it like Twilio? That was the big one. So Twilio and Bravo would be the ones there, but Bravo is like a bit cheaper and more user-friendly. I'll write in the chat.
Very cool. Brian, you had a thought or question?
Yeah, I will maybe just kind of state where my brain went and then a question will emerge. But based on what you said, I like where my mind goes, and you specifically talked about the metrics, clicks, opens versus website visits, or if the conversion's not even happening on the website, this is what business owners are asking for is how's it driving conversions, what's it doing to my top line, and kind of unravels into a whole new chapter of the attribution discussion that is the bane probably of many of our existence, right? Like if the customer bought 6 months ago and they were reminded by their email client 3 times, and that third reminder is what spurred them to go convert again. Was it the email that you sent 6 months ago? Was it a reminder? Was it other influences along the way? It is a theme that I try to speak to all the time, right? Because direct mail gets very little last touch attribution. But I'm curious if you think about that or if anyone else has ideas on what this evolution means in that conversation.
So I think when it comes to email, the hardest part that's been there for a very long time is understanding how these metrics even work. So like, you have like YouTube views or like, what does that mean? Does it mean like they've watched the whole video, half a video? So in email, it's the same issue. And what makes it more complex is that there isn't some universal way of doing this. Google might open some extra emails, Microsoft Office you might not see the open because the images weren't downloaded. So then there's no way to track the opens. So people need to first understand how these metrics are measured. And then when it comes to attribution, it becomes a little bit more difficult because of, the website conversion. And if you don't have any UTM links and you don't know people are coming from the email, unless you're checking one by one and there's some way for you to check, you won't be able to prove this. And then the reverse happens as well. If you're using Klaviyo and Shopify and your new customer is already on your Klaviyo account, if they buy, it's attributed to email, even though you might not have sent an email. So it's important to check the statistics. But one of the most important things is always to understand what's the goal? Like an email, what is the goal? If we send out an email, is it just to read or is it to get somebody to do something? And if they're not doing that something, then fix the email. Or send it to the correct people, because the one thing that email has above all the other social media is that email is somebody who's giving you an email, you have like a one-on-one contact with this person. So it's because zero level kind of subscriber, whereas on Instagram, it's Instagram deciding if this person sees it or not. With email, you get to decide. So in my head, as an email deliverability person, I think it should be a lot easier to make these decisions and be more targeted versus like social media. Can you really tell if they did come from there and if that was the last touch base? And of course, like email is like the cheapest way to make money. It's still number one in ROI. The amount of money you put into it will come back if you're doing it correctly. But when you have a complex system, if you don't have an app that's able to really see the life cycle of that person from website to email to social media, it really does become difficult. So it's like before you do the marketing, to already decide what makes this a winner, or what are the goals that we want to achieve. And if we didn't achieve it, what were the elements we're completely aware have are going into the piece of the puzzle. It is pretty hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I think attribution across marketing platforms has gotten more challenging, right? And I know in the PR world, we've always been a little bit comfortable with that because somebody may read an article, you may or may not see them go to the website. It's a long trail. So I think in PR, we've been a little more comfortable with it. I think everybody else in marketing is starting to kind of panic at that, lack of being able to trace that. So yeah, maybe that would be a good thing to talk about next time. Maybe if you guys want to do tips around how you're attributing clients coming from different marketing platforms and how that's shifted, that would be a great topic for next time. Awesome. Well, thank you. Brian, you want to introduce yourself and share your tip?
Yes. Hey guys, Brian Jungle. Like I said, I'm in Atlanta. I started at City Publications Atlanta. I bought the business last December, and my first day was January 20th, 2025. So exactly 1 year in. And my background, I was in enterprise level digital consulting and sales for about 10 years. I worked at Adobe, so Adobe Experience Cloud, doing email, site personalization, customer data platforms, really the whole bit, advertising, marketing, entire suite for enterprises. So the tip is kind of what, and I just posted a LinkedIn post this morning that kind of captures this, but the insight that I got kind of linking these two worlds together, and I'll talk about how I'm employing it for my business, but I think more generally, it's the insight. If you're working for SMBs that don't have big databases and prospect CRMs, for example, then this is going to be important. So how many marketing touch points are required to make a buying decision? Like, I don't know, there's a million things out there. There's a 3, 5, 7, 59, whatever. There are multiple impressions, right? So marketers, as we know, are part of their goal is getting those repeat impressions. And part of the challenge is when you're marketing across platforms, how do you know that you're getting repeat impressions to the same individual versus just pushing similar audience criteria to channel A, B, and C? Is it person 1, 2, 3 in channels A, B, and C, but they look alike? Or is it actually person A in channel 1, 2, and 3? Maybe I flipped the letters and numbers. Actually getting those repeat impressions. At the enterprise level, what we did for really large companies is use they've got prospect profiles. So they've collected PII on their prospects that allow them to create audiences and segments that they can push to different ad channels. And they do this because if you're, CVS Health and you work with Aetna and you've got people, and there's a lot of regulations how you actually share data, but they've got business partnerships. They can do some fuzzy matching through device graphs and things like the credit bureaus and purchasing data, or they'll offer you go and you enter your address. Am I eligible for your service X, Y, or Z? So there's ways that you volunteer. So they've got all these kind of tools in hopes that they can gather these prospect databases. Then they create the audience of the PII and they push it out to the ad channels because they go, no, I don't want to rely on your data. I want to use my data. And that's kind of like the big discussion between, hey, we're CVS. Okay, well, we're Meta. Like, whose data can we use? So they've got different tools at their disposal, but they're able to ensure that they're getting repeat impressions by using consistent data because it's their data. I'm working with local Atlanta businesses and mostly focused on home services. So we've got, painters, plumbers, and electricians and landscapers. And a lot of them have been around for a long time. They got thousands, at least in their CRM, of past work they've done. But the challenge is they're going to prospect, right? And they're doing exactly what I said before, which does not guarantee their repeat impressions. You're going across different channels. Especially when you're going into walled gardens, YouTube's, Facebook's, anything with Meta, Google, they are controlling the data. They're reporting to you who's seeing it, but they're not giving you specific information. They're just saying, trust us, this cohort that's interested saw it in the report, and they'll all over-report, blah, blah, blah. So how do the local businesses, SMBs, obtain the advantage that the enterprises have, which is prospect database marketing in a way that allows you to build repeat impressions? Well, they can do things like a value exchange, start a newsletter, sign up, give us your information, we'll send you a news, or here's a free whatever, and there's some value exchange. That's one. You still need to draw them into your business in order to engage in that value exchange. The other one is use it starting with direct mail list. And this is kind of like the key insight. So digital marketing into local direct mail. When by nature of the media, to send a direct mail campaign, you need at least the home address and the homeowner's first name, last name. So we've got a lot of residential information. This is why we gravitate towards home services, because they want to reach homeowners. But it's really anytime we have an address, right? There's we in order to send a mail piece, it's to recipient, et cetera. So essentially what we do in our targeting platform, it's the same kind of demographic, psychographic entry that we do and sit with the customer and they say, tell me who you want to reach. And I go, boom, boom, boom. Here's the people in your service area in Atlanta that fit this. I found 53,000 homes. Let's do campaigns of 10,000. We can grab all 53,000 or segments of 10,000 and we send a direct mail campaign. Well, now we've got that list of people that got the mailer, and now we can retarget them, hit them on other channels by porting that PII, the prospect PII, into other channels that will accept it. So far, like the firewall essentially that's with those walled gardens, Google and Meta has blocked us, but there's independent ad networks where you can use lists like this and push them out to channels like digital display, like mobile apps and mobile websites. We can get into connected TV ad networks. We can get into streaming audio, Apple Podcasts, for example. So I think that what I would encourage, if you guys there's been a lot of people that have approached me the past year that have gone, like Stephanie said at the beginning of the call, direct mail. I've heard direct mail is coming back. I've been pouring this money into Google for 10 years to get on page 1, and now I'm on page 3 because there's the AI and their algorithm. I can't keep up, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, I'm going to look at direct mail. I think this is an added value where you can work into your conversations. And of course, it's added value for me because I'm selling this, but there's a way that direct mail is not only a reliable way to reach homeowners that isn't subject to ad blockers or spam filters, but it's also a welcome piece. And then it can serve as a foundation to actually springboard into those incremental impressions across channels. So yeah, I have obvious applications for how I'm carrying that forward. I'll link to my LinkedIn post, but that was kind of an unveil from a technology and data portability perspective, and linking those capabilities together.
I think that's great, Brian. And it's interesting to position direct mail as the foundation and then to do digital marketing off of that. I've not heard anybody talk about that. I usually hear of direct mail as an add-on. Okay, you're doing all these marketing things, just kind of send some postcards and be done with it. So I think that's a really strategic way to look at that. So that's really interesting. All right, thoughts and questions for Brian? Judy.
Well, I was going to say, you said it far better, but I love, Brian, that you've taken this strategic approach with something that's typically considered a tactic. People, to your point, Stephanie, people think of direct mail as an add-on, as oh, by the way, type of mentality, but you reframe that and just flip the script completely and making it the foundation. It's pretty brilliant.
Kristen, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, Brian, there's a company called USA Home Listings, and they might be someone for you to talk to because they focus on moving companies and then have data that can help a lot of the home service companies as well. But they've been able to get the FMLS listing first, and and they lead with postcards. But there might be some synergies between you and that company because I don't know that they have the software intelligence for what you're doing on this side of it. They could have, but there might be some good synergies. And so as I was hearing you, I was like, ooh, I like that. That's very smart. It's a good way to approach it.
I'll look them up. The mover data is so valuable for home services. So that's a good tip.
And Liz and Brian, I don't remember if I've introduced you guys, but I know Liz Bachman works in home services and she does social media. So that's her audience. Well, and I don't know if you guys know Megan Ricci, but I feel like I've made these introductions, but anyways, I just always think of you guys as having a similar audience. So, if y'all haven't talked, y'all should.
Yep.
Awesome. Very cool. Any other thoughts for Brian? Any other questions? It's very cool. Kristen, you had another thought?
You mentioned getting on podcasts. I'm really curious about your Apple background. I mean, why are they getting rid of XD? I have so many questions because we loved it, but really about how you're able to, because I think the problem is that we can't own our relationships when we're in the Google, and when
Yeah.
we're advertising there, but you can own it if you have their mailing address and email and et cetera. How
Mm.
are you able to jump over those walls and then still maintain that?
Well, no, so actually, if it's a walled garden like that, where if they don't have a bring your own audience feature, then I am blocked right now. That's part of what I'm trying to figure out how to navigate. But there's ad networks that allow basically they'll do targeting on a residence based on IP address of the router, and then the devices that are subscribing to that router. So the TV, the Wi-Fi of that router. So they're like the connected TV is a big one because it's always connected to your home Wi-Fi. That router is designated to the address that you mail to, and then what are the common devices, the most frequent devices, which are typically the homeowner, right? There's guardrails in place so that advertising is not going to children, right? It's not totally foolproof, but so it's generally people under 18 that have devices that are frequently subscribed to the Wi-Fi in the home at that address. But yeah, if we run into a platform like the big walled gardens, I'm exploring whether part of the strategy is going, well, you know what, we can get close but not perfect. Then let's just try it. But that kind of goes away from no, these are repeat impressions, and this is the problem that we're solving. So it's a question of keeping the scope of the campaign smaller in terms of channels versus accommodating more requests, but getting less deterministic.
And I think that may be one of the strategies for 2026 is it may be smaller audiences, but they may be more specific. We may be able to track them more, right? So if we can't track these huge swaths of people and these huge, broad, platforms, maybe it's getting more specific and having a few that we can track. Awesome. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. That's a great tip that gives us lots to think about today. All right, and we've got a couple more minutes left, so I'm going to wrap up with a tip today about search. So my name is Stephanie Richards, and my company is SoGrow Public Relations. So we focus on helping companies to become visible in the market. That's changing a lot because as the years go by, this is our 20th year, so as the years go by, it used to be like print publications and everything was digital. And so now we're moving into search online as well. So today I wanted to talk about how search has changed and talk a little bit about the traditional search and what's different now as people are starting to move from just searching on platforms like Google to searching on more the AI platforms that are just a completely different model. So, and one thing I would like to say, which I wish Ryan Williams was on this because he's our SEO expert and he's now our AIO expert, but SEO is not totally going away. I think of SEO as like a foundational piece and the AIO you build on it, right? So we're not saying like you have to completely get rid of SEO, but if you're only doing SEO or if your clients are only doing SEO, then they're missing the whole next layer, which people are moving to searching on AI platforms. So as we think about, comparing SEO to searching on AI platforms, so SEO, we call it search engine optimization, SEO. The term that, we all were talking about this before, what is the actual term for showing up in searches on AI platforms? It's the one that I'm leaning towards is artificial intelligence optimization. Some people say generative engine optimization, but, those are the terms that as we move forward, you're going to definitely want to become more familiar with. We'll see which one wins out. But as you think about SEO, the primary goal was to show up in those blue links, right? Like you wanted to be on those top few links and you wanted people to click on your link. Well, that's completely changed because when you're searching in something like ChatGPT, you're not getting blue links. You're getting a summarized answer. So your goal is to show up in that summarized answer and be a cited source in that answer, which is a completely different structure. It used to be there were multiple links, and now, the ability to show up is a little bit more limited in that you're not going to get a whole page of links. You're going to get a summary, and you want to be mentioned in the summary or one of the cited sources. If you think in terms of SEO, the output is that list of links. And when you think of AI engines, it's more of a synthesized answer. So you're not getting a whole page of links, you're getting a specific answer. And that completely changes how people are consuming information. So we need to think in terms of, what kind of information is going to show up in those answers versus just showing up based on keywords. Also, how we measure it is different. the way we measure SEO, it was, how high did we rank and how many times did someone click on a link? The thing that a lot of people are having a hard time wrapping their mind around is showing up in an AI search, but not necessarily getting that click. A lot of AI searches, people will get the information they need, but they're not necessarily clicking on anything. So you're missing that piece that we have used as marketers as a staple. It's that click. How many people clicked? And it's a bigger picture now. It's really about influencing the conversation on a much higher level. And you may not get that click back, but are you influencing the conversation? Are you one of those voices that is coming up as a reliable source? That has a lot more value sometimes than just a single click, but it's harder to measure. So people are having to come around that and figure out, like, what does this really mean and what is the success in that? So with SEO, the reward was basically like keywords and backlinks, right? You're focusing mostly on keywords, getting those backlinks from other sites. And now it's really how many times are you showing up as a trusted source and how many times are you mentioned by these other trusted sources? So it's like a diverse group of trusted witnesses across the web. And what are they saying about your brand? So it's not just, what keywords are you ranking for, but it's really, are you changing the conversation and are you influencing the conversation among multiple different entities across multiple different platforms? And are you able to have a voice in that? And are you showing up in that? That's really the success now. So backlinks are, how many links are pointing back to your site. And when you think about entity authority, it's who you are and what you are known for in the eyes of the AI models. And you have to work to build that reputation over time, and you have to keep it up to date because the AI engines want new information. So, if you do the work and then stop, you're not going to show up in searches. It has to be very fresh information. And then with SEO, a lot of the focus was on your website and on the information that you were saying about yourself. So, how many blogs do you have? How many, how much content can you get on your website? Can you make your website an authority? And that still matters in AI search. You still want to have a lot of relevant information about specific topics that you're trying to show up in searches about. You want that information on your website, but that's not enough anymore. It's really important to have other people talking about your company and other people basically citing the information that you're putting out there. So it's not just about, how much is on your website, what does your website say? The AI search is really about avoiding self-promotional or single source claims. That information is not ranked as high when they're pulling information to put in answers. And traditional SEO relies on structural authority, votes from other websites. And AIO relies on consensus authority, agreement across the entire web, and the amount of sources that are saying the same thing about the brand. It's not necessarily that it's saying the same thing because it's not like SEO with the keywords about having the same keywords show up, but it's about the verifying facts. So you don't want the exact same copy on different websites, but are those sites in agreement? Can the information be verified? That's what you're going for. You're trying to be a source where the information is in multiple places and it lines up and it's in agreement. So that way, when the AI searches happen, all the information that is pinged is like, okay, well, it says it over here, it says it over here, it says it over here. This must be reliable information. And it's coming from reliable sources. Again, that's where the media outlets come into play. If something's already been vetted and posted on a media outlet, it's pretty reliable in most cases. So that's pretty good information for these AI engines to pull from. So again, SEO is not going away. It's still a foundation. If you do not have a good, strong foundation for SEO, it's going to be hard to have a good, strong foundation for showing up in AI searches, but it's not enough anymore. SEO is not enough anymore. We really have to go the next level to be able to show up in these AI searches. All right, we've got 2 minutes to wrap up. So thoughts or questions on searching and how it's shifted?
What would
You mentioned, oh, go ahead, Yana.
No, go for it. I didn't raise my arm. I'll raise my arm.
Well, I didn't either. I was going to ask, because you mentioned a couple times how many times you're listed. And I've seen some of these backlink citation automated things, and it's on a website no one would ever is there a quality versus quantity discussion?
Yes. And, a lot of it comes down to, is the source something that the AI engines are citing? Because a lot of sources they just don't cite, they don't care about, right? So is it reliable? Is it reputable? Is it something that they're already citing? And the quality is definitely a huge part of it. The more trusted an authority is, the more likely that information is going to be surfaced, versus something that's a directory where you post something or you post information that you have control over. It's not going to be weighted as much. So for sure, but you still do want a large number of mentions about your company. Yeah, Tori, you had a thought?
Yeah, I was gonna ask if somebody was gonna come up to you and say like, "Hey, I need some help to get this started," what would the first thing be? Would it be to like audit the website and see what's there, or would it? Well, I mean, I guess you'd have to do that, but then change the way you're talking about things, as in answering questions instead of just like trying to create content just to make it. So, what would the first steps be
So
for somebody?
there's definitely a couple pieces that there's definitely the technical side on your website, and there are a lot of things that need to be done on your website to make it friendly for the AI search engines. And it's really thinking about building a library of content around a specific area versus having a lot of different content. And then there's certain formats that they like to pull content from. So if the information is not easy to get on your website, it's not going to be cited. Where we start with is who do you want to reach? And then we figure out what are those channels that are going to reach those people. And then we're going to also compare that to the AI engines and what are the channels that they're pulling from. So if it makes sense for you to reach a certain audience, then we need to look at the channels that are also going to be cited by the AI engines to make sure that both are being addressed. So wonderful. It is 11 o'clock on the dot. I always promise to get you guys out by exactly 11 o'clock. So thank you guys for coming, and please show up and join us next time on February 17th. Thank you for listening to the SoGrow Marketing Council podcast. Want to be part of our next meeting? Visit sogrowpr.com. That's SOWGROWPR.com and click on the Marketing Council tab to sign up for our next event. Until next time, keep growing.